Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Travels Canada channel. On here, we like to bring you up to date with all the latest travel news in Canada. So, our three stories today are UK is now requiring an ETA to enter into their country. This ETA is basically something like a visa. WestJet has added again. Wait till you see what they're doing. And the top story is travel between Canada and China. I wonder what's going on there. I guess you'll have to stay tuned to see. So, before we move on, I just wanted to mention how we cover all the stories in Canadian travel that everybody's not talking about. So, as you can see, for the last week or two, everybody's talking about Cuba. So, we didn't want to put another video about that. We tried to sum up three stories that we thought would be really interesting that nobody else is covering. So let's jump into today's video. Today's first topic is Canadians will now require an ETA to travel into the UK. Well, what's an ETA? An ETA is an electronic travel authorization form, which is basically like a visa. Now, the effective date for this will be February 25th, 2026. And Canadians must realize that this is actually a legal requirement. So you've got about 2 weeks before this is implemented. Now, it's available for Canadians visiting for tourism, business, or short term study. And every traveler, including children, must have their own individual ETA linked to their passport. Now, they will be strictly enforcing this. So if you're flying from Canada after this ETA goes into place and you don't have your ETA at your port of departure from Canada, you're going to be denied boarding and will not allow to get on that plane. Now, Mike Tapp, who is Britain's Minister for Migration and Citizenship, had to say the following: ETAs give us a greater power to stop those who pose a threat from setting foot in the country and give us a fuller picture of immigration. Now, there is an exception to all this, and that is if you hold dual citizenship with Canada and Britain or Canada and Ireland. And if you do, you cannot apply for an ETA. Rather, you just have to carry a valid British passport or a valid Irish passport. So let's jump into the next topic. Hi there. Today's second topic is all about WestJet. Now, we all know as Canadians who WestJet are. They're one of the most popular Canadian airlines operating in Canada and throughout the world. So they've just made a major step in passenger accessibility. They're implementing a new program called the Air Chair 2, which is basically for people who have mobility issues or are in a wheelchair so they can access a plane with ease. Now, this is supposed to be the first airline in Canada to ever implement some kind of accessibility for passengers. So far, WestJet has ordered 22 of these air chair units, and they're very lightweight. They only weigh around 6.8 kilograms, which makes it easier for cabin crew to handle them. The chairs also fold compactly for storage and can be quickly deployed, which helps reduce disruption during boarding and in-flight passenger movements. So let's move on to the next one. Hi, the main story today is Canadian travelers will no longer have to apply for a visa to enter China. This is great news, everybody. Now, while removing visa requirements encourage Canadians to travel to China, and is there high demand right now for this? And the answer to both those questions are yes, there's a high demand right now for Canadian citizens flying to China because of this new visa requirement. Now, because of this new visa requirement, they're expecting to see, like I said, a lot more people flying to China. Right now, there's currently 7 major airlines that are actually going online to fly people 2 to 3 times a week direct from Canadian cities. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't know which Canadian cities they'll be flying out of, but we believe they'll probably be Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, which are the 3 major hubs in Canada for air travel. Now, previously, Chinese Canadians and any other Canadians would have to apply for a visa to get into China. And this rule even goes for Chinese Canadians who were born in China and they held a Canadian passport. They would still have to apply for a visa to get into China. Now, this was a very difficult process. It could take up to an hour and a half to fill out this form to apply for a visa to get into China. And if you got rejected, then you would have to apply again, which would take more time. And on top of that, each time you apply, it could take up to 2 to 3 months to get a visa. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because there's no more requirements for visas. Now it's expected that many Chinese Canadians are going to be flying home more often because of this announcement. And it's also expected that more Canadians will be traveling to China, maybe even for their first time. So if you are a first-time traveler to China, there's a couple of cities that you really want to see. And they are Beijing, which is the capital city, Shanghai, and then Xi'an. And you have to plan at least 12 plus days to visit this country of China, because even if you had 12 days, you could only spend 3 days in each of or 3 or 4 days in each of those cities. But if you stay a little longer, then you may be able to go into the rural areas and explore an even more cultural experience whilst in China. And on top of that, they have a huge high-speed rail operation going on, which makes it extremely easy to get around China. So let's move on to the next topic. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments below. Will you be traveling to China now with these new visa requirements for Canadians? And what do you think about WestJet and their accessibility options going forward? Anyway, have a good day, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.